When I was 5 or 6 years old, I think closer to 5, my mother dropped me out of a two-story window. And I've made videos about this in the past, but I want to address some comments that are going on in the thread because I think that they're important. Let's get into it, shall we? You said she dropped you, quote unquote, but you were 5. So I'm thinking she actually pushed you, which is not much different, but enough so to show how violent it was. Hope this is helpful and not annoying. It's not annoying. I appreciate the comment, and I almost feel like there's a question in there. And then somebody else responded, Narc mother held Marnie by the ankles and then let go. So dropped, quote unquote, is a fine word. So much of living with a narcissist is being gaslit into doubting your own memory and experience. Recovering from narcissistic abuse involves reclaiming one's own memories, experience, and framing. So telling her actually you were pushed as though you know better than she does what happened really isn't helpful. And then the original commenter, Tamara, comments back. Let's see how she feels about it. Dropped can sound like she was holding her and dropped her like it was an accident unless the details are told, which is why her mom might have gotten out of it. But held by the ankles is more like pushed, attempted murder. So first of all, I really appreciate you, coming to my defense, our defense really, about, questioning the memories or the verbiage that we use around the abuse we experienced, because we do go through so much gaslighting and self-doubt in our own experiences. You're spot on there, and I agree with you in a most part, not in 100% part, and only because of where I am in my journey, not because I'm right and you're wrong, because this isn't that. So just to clarify around there. And one of the things that I've learned is that when people actually question my experience a little bit, now that I am where I am, it helps me. It has helped me in some ways. It's helped me think about what occurred, but I'm not gaslighting myself anymore. If somebody said this to me 20 years ago, it would have the feeling of you don't believe me, and it would feel very different to me, right? It would put me on the defense. It might even trigger me. So it really does depend where we are. I, for example, never looked at what my mother did to me in dropping me out of the two-story window as her trying to unalive me. I never put those dots together. You know how I ended up putting them together? Somebody told me. Literally. And this is somewhere within the range of the past 5 years that somebody said to me, you realize she was trying to unalive you, right? I don't even know why we can't use other words, but anyway, it's so frustrating. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was so focused on the fact that I walked away with 2 broken arms, it had never dawned on me that my mother tried to unalive me. It never dawned on me that she had no way of knowing that I would walk away from that, and every reason to believe that I wouldn't. Never happened. So sometimes statements or even questioning or putting a different word in there can be really helpful. It does depend where we are in our own journey, in our own self-belief and knowledge, right? And at this point in my life, if somebody doesn't believe me, it doesn't bother me at all, because that's not my circus and not my monkeys. I live in life from the inside out. I know what's true. I know my experience, and nobody gets to tell me that it wasn't what I know it to be. So it depends on where we are. But to get to the dropping and the technicality of it, and I understand that the drop sounds less what the result was. I understand that pushed would be a more not accurate, because it's not an accurate description, but one that would perhaps make the listening audience see it for as being an intentional act, right? I get what you're saying. It's not correct though. It isn't what happened. And at the end of the day, I'm here to tell the truth of what happened and not use language that's inaccurate. My mother baited me, instructed me to lean out the window. She grabbed me by the ankles. she dangled me and she literally let go. That's what happened. So she dropped me. She didn't push me. It wasn't an act of pushing me. And I think you said something about, well, let me check actually, because I don't want to misspeak. The part where you say, which is why my mother got out of it. No, no, no. My mother got out of it because she immediately had a lie in place that everybody bought into and nobody checked up on, which is pretty much the day in, day out experience in my narcissistic family system. Nobody questions the queen, right? And she manipulated it right out of the gate. Instead of calling an ambulance, for example, where police would have likely been involved even back then, because we're talking 1971, 1972, she put me in a taxi to the hospital. So she had plenty of time to figure out what she was going to say on that ride, right? And by the time that I woke up, because I was in and out of consciousness, I woke up with the 2 casts, which were around my hands, my fingers and my thumb were free, all the way up to just underneath my armpit and both arms like this. Pretty horrific for a child who's being abused to now not have use of her arms. I actually don't have any memories of being inside those casts. And I don't care if I never recover them, because I imagine they must be pretty bad, given the things I do remember. But immediately out of the gate, this story had already been told, that I was playing on a toy box that she had repeatedly told me not to play on. So you put a toy box knowing a child could fall out the window, and you left it there and just kept telling her not to play on it? And nobody questioned that. Nobody questioned, well, why didn't you just move the toy box? Nobody questioned that. And P.S., there actually wasn't a toy box. And nobody checked. Nobody looked. My brother lived in that house, my mother's son, 5.5 years older, golden child. And he never told, because he was her protector. I don't blame him for that at that age, because, you know, he was in harm's way and vulnerable, and he's still very attached to her, which is why I call him my mother's son. But now, you know, I'm 59, he's 5.5 years older. Never disclosed there was no toy box. The story, I don't know how it happened, but it got woven into, as per usual, me becoming the family joke. So here I am, 5 years old. My mother drops me out of a 2-story window, spins a lie, and now the joke is Marnie was trying to fly like Supergirl. I'll leave you with that. Thank you for, by the way, the comment. And I appreciate it. I'm in no way upset by it. I appreciate the dialogue. I appreciate you coming to the defense of us as well. And I think that we're both right here in many ways. I understand what you're saying, and I just appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk through these kinds of things, because of the fact that it is important for us to be sensitive how we comment or question on somebody else's experience, because you don't know where they are, and they might be in a place where they need more validation because they're not in the place where they can provide it for themselves at the level where I am right now. Not that I'm at a high level, I'm just saying that where I am in my journey, this doesn't bother me at all, but you would have no way of knowing that, right? I put myself out here on the internet, so therefore I do put myself out here for all sorts of comments, and I recognize that, and I'm okay with that. Does it mean I deserve certain things like, the trolls? You're not that. I'm not saying that. No, it doesn't. At the same time, I recognize it's just kind of the cost of doing business, right? So thank you again. Thanks for being here, and I appreciate all of you.